Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, probably a bit of all three. Who knows? I'm doing the what lurks on my Kindle tag. So this tag was created by the great Steve Donahue, who created it in response to a video that Michael K. Vaughan did. So Michael's doing the 100 book challenge I didn't set it. People saying I set it or that I forced people to do it. I gave myself the challenge of reading 100 books I already own before buying any new ones, and other people have decided it was a good idea and are doing it as well. One of those people is Michael K. Vaughan, so he was kind of trawling through his Kindle in order to see what was on there and see what he had to read that he hadn't read, and did a what's lurking in the depths of my Kindle video. So Steve, having seen that, has created a tag for it, and I've seen another Bibliophile Reads is doing it as well. So he's done at least one tag video for this, and is saying he may do more if people like it. So I'm going to do the same. If you like what you see, then I'm happy to do more. I'm going to do it in a slightly different way to other people. So I think both Michael and Steve have been choosing what books they're going to talk about. So kind of curating what's on their Kindle to make sure that they've got something, I don't know, something not embarrassing, I'm not sure. They're choosing the books they talk about anyway. Whereas Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads is just going through all of the books on his Kindle by author surname, so sorted alphabetically. So I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do a kind of Russian roulette. So I'm actually going to use my iPad for this because, as pointed out by Steve, Kindle art on Kindle books doesn't look that great when it's on an actual Kindle because it's black and white, and also it can take a while to flip between things. So I have got my iPad Kindle app sorted, so it's filtered by just books, so I've excluded documents from here, so I haven't got any kind of NetGalley stuff and that kind of thing, partly because they don't have cover art, and also because I haven't bought those things. So I'm going to restrict this to things I've bought. And what I'm going to do, quite simply, is without looking, scroll through and then randomly put my finger in at some point and stop it and see what I get. And I'll probably do that like 10 times. We'll see how it goes. But before I do that, when he created the tag, Steve said he wanted people to talk about their tech and their relationship with tech. So I've got two Kindles that I use. I tend not to use the iPad, so I always have the Kindle app installed on things, particularly on my phone, because I like to be able to use it. I like to be able to read whenever I can, basically. And the benefit of having it on your phone is, and particularly when you're reading Kindle books, is that they sync. So if you've got Wi-Fi turned on in your Kindle, your position in a book will sync with the Kindle app and any other Kindles you've got and things like that. So I do it that way. So if I'm out and about and I don't know, for instance, say I'm out with my wife shopping and she decides she wants to do some clothes shopping, rather than just standing around like a lemon not doing anything, I can read a book on my phone. Or, you know, if I go to the doctors and have a long wait, or, you know, whatever, I've always got a book in my pocket, basically, or multiple books in my pocket on my phone, and they'll be in the same position as they are on my Kindle. In terms of actual Kindles then, so my main device at the moment is this, which is the Kindle Paperwhite 2021 Signature Edition, which I got a little while ago when it came out, and I've done a review on. I'm very, very happy with this device. Nice big screen, excellent battery life, really responsive. It's got the warm backlight, things like that. So no complaints with that at all. I got that to replace my Kindle Oasis 3rd generation, which I was really happy with, apart from the battery life was just terrible. So my son's got that now. He's not nearly as big a reader as me. So the lower battery life won't be so much of a problem for him. Before that, I was using this. So this is the 1st generation Kindle Oasis, which I think is still in many ways the greatest Kindle that Amazon have ever made. Mine's a bit tatty now, but it's got the asymmetrical design, which I really, really like, and the page turn buttons, which I really like as well, which just make it a lot easier well, not easier exactly when you're reading, but I just like the tactile nature of them. But the thing that's great about this, which was my problem with the Kindle Oasis 3, is the battery life's really good. And the reason for that is that it's actually, so this cover that's on it isn't something you buy separately. It came with the Oasis, and it's actually a battery cover. So if I take the Oasis off, you can see it's got that asymmetrical design. This case, this part is all battery, and it just magnetically attaches via what I think are called pogo plugs. So it's incredibly easy and very satisfying as well, I have to say, to put it in the case. But what I found was, when I was using it, or when I do use it, I read, you know, like this with it out of the case, but then when I finish reading, I just put it in the case and close it, and it starts charging. So, you know, I get similar battery life with this setup than I do with, probably not with the new Paperwhite, but that I did with my previous Paperwhite. And unfortunately, on the newer, so the second generation and third generation Oasis, they've taken away this charging cover thing. And I think that's because of waterproofing. So this Oasis, the first gen one, isn't waterproof, whereas the newer ones are. And I think Amazon, in their wisdom, have decided that people would rather have a waterproof device than one with great battery life, which I question. If they made a new Oasis that supported the charging cover or came with the charging cover, I think I'd probably buy it. Even though I've only just bought the Paperwhite, I think if they did that, I would sell the Paperwhite and buy a Gen 4 Oasis. So we'll see if they ever do that. If they do, if you're listening, Jeff Bezos, that's how to get more money out of me. Having said that, he's already got quite a lot of money out of me, because when I looked at my iPad, I've got, and did the filtering I said to get it down just to books, I've got 2,055 books, which is quite a lot, and I paid for the vast majority of those. The other thing I wanted to say is, when I do read on the iPad, and I do occasionally, the way I like to read is like this. So in landscape, so it feels more like a book, because you've got 2 pages. So yeah, that's just my preference when I do read on it, and it's quite nice to just hold like this. So yeah, I find that quite satisfying. Whereas reading like that, I find it's just too many words, if that makes sense. So I am someone who doesn't like too many words on a page. I struggle with books that have small print, partly because of eyesight, but also just because if I get distracted or something like that, I find it very difficult to find my place again. So I prefer, you know, something like this, where you've got half the number of words per page, and you just have to remember what page you're on. So let's get on with the actual tag part of the tag. Oh, I should say as well, so in terms of Kindles I have owned, so I've shown you those 2. I've talked about the Oasis Oasis 3, which is now my son's. I also had, I think it was a first gen Paperwhite, which my wife has got now, which is somewhere in the house, I'm not sure where. And prior to that, I had, I've got it here somewhere. I had this, so a Kindle keyboard. So I think this was like the second generation Kindle. So unfortunately, the screen on mine has gone at the top, and the battery's a bit screwed as well. I charge it every so often, and it just discharges even if I don't use it. So I don't use it anymore. But it's I think a fantastic looking device. It looks more than any of the new Kindles, I think, because of the physical keyboard on this, it really looks like something from a sci-fi movie. I love it as just an object. So yeah, that was my first Kindle. Before that, I had a Sony e-reader, which I really liked. But Amazon sucked me in with the ease of getting books onto the Kindle. The Sony ebook store was rubbish. Right, so let's get into the tag. So I'm going to go back to my library, and these are sorted just by most recent. So that will be the book I've opened most recently, or the book I bought most recently, basically. Right, so I'm going to scroll through, as I said, stop at random and tell you what the book is. Right, so I have stopped on a series, so it is, and the Kindle now sorts books by series, so I've landed on the Rescue series by Ryan No, not sorry, it's not the Rescue series. That's what the first book's called. The Ryan Decker series by Stephen Concoli, which is one of those cheap series that you can get on Kindle. I think I've got all 4 books in the series, and I paid 99p for each of them. So they are action adventure type things. Let me show you the cover of the first one. Haven't read any of them. We'll probably read them at some point, but they look like a lot of easy cheesy fun. So, you know, I see this kind of book on Kindle, the kind of often self-published books that are, you know, adventure books in a series. Often we've got a lot of books in the series. I mean, this has only got 4, but I think these are kind of the equivalent of the kind of pulp books I like. So the kind of executioner books and things like that. I think this is the modern equivalent. So yeah, it looks fun, you know, just from that cover, that looks fun, doesn't it? But yeah, no idea what they're about, other than no doubt the hero is a ex-special forces or something along those lines, because they always are in these books. Right, okay, so that was the first one. So as I say, I'll try and do 10, but if I may lose count, so we'll see how I go. Right, I can scroll a bit further this time. And I've got Fooled by Randomness by Nassim Nicholas. Hold on, I couldn't see his surname because it was obscured by the little tick to show I was downloading it. So Nassim Nicholas Taleb. So Fooled by Randomness, the hidden role of chance in life and in the markets. So I'm fascinated by this kind of non-fiction study of, you know, the modern world really, and how science and chance and, you know, all those kind of things impact every aspect of our daily lives nowadays. So again, I haven't read this. It was one that I saw on a deal one day for Kindle and bought. I think his book The Black Swan, which also I haven't read, is his better known book. But this looks like a very interesting read, and I think that's an interesting title, Fooled by Randomness. The idea that we think things are random when actually there are patterns there, we just don't understand them. Right, that was book 2. Let's do book 3. Let's scroll again. Okay, I have got All the Beautiful Lies by Peter Swanson. So let me open that up so you can see the cover. So I've got a ton of Peter Swanson books on my Kindle. I have, I think, 5 or 6 books by him. And again, this was one day there was a deal where you could get all of his books pretty much for 99p each. I haven't read any of his books. I've got one in paperback as well. I've got The Kind Worth Killing in paperback. He seems to have a pretty good rep as that kind of slightly intelligent mystery thriller, kind of high concept writer. So I've got no idea what this one's about. It's quite a nice cover though. So yeah, another one I shall get to at some point. And as always, if you've read any of these books, please do shout in the comments if there's one you think I should read in particular. Right, I'm going to go a bit further this time and stop. I have got another book I haven't read. So what I would say is, of the 2,000 books I've got on here, I've read a quarter of them, according to the stats. So I've got Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, which obviously was a like a big deal a couple of years ago, one of those books that everyone was talking about. Again, I got it in a 99p deal. I think my mum read it and said it was good. I don't really know what it's about. It was just a book I was aware of and it was cheap, so I bought it. I suspect at least some of you will have read that one, so do shout if you had. Right, here we go again. Right, so I've got Troubles by F.G. Farrell now, which is one of those books I heard about. I think on Twitter someone was talking about it. I think it's got a slightly strange history in that I think it was published and then unpublished and then republished again recently, or at least I think it's an older book, but it won the Booker Prize. It won the Booker Prize in 1970, so I'm talking nonsense. It's just an older book. So a book, I believe, about Northern Ireland and the Troubles, as the name suggests, although I might be completely wrong. Oh, here we go. This is why I had a more recent connection with it. So in 2010, the public chose Troubles from a short list of 6 contenders as the winner of the Lost Man Booker Prize in 1970, the only year since its inception in which the competition did not take place. So it was published in 1970, but didn't win the Booker Prize until 2010. but that Booker Prize was the 1970 Booker Prize. I'll read you one of the blurbs for it. I don't think it is about the Troubles, actually. I think I'm completely making that up. So one of the blurbs says it's like 40 tales written by Evelyn Waugh, which suggests it's not about the Troubles in Northern Ireland at all. But it sounds quite fun anyway. So yes, again, at some point in my life, I'm probably about halfway. Well, if I'm lucky, I'm about halfway through my life. So at some point, I will read these books. Right, let's get to another one. Oh, I've got one I've actually read this time. A Paper Mask by John Coffey. Sorry, not John Coffey. That's the guy from the Green Mile, John Colley. So if you haven't read this, this is an absolutely fantastic book, and also an absolutely fantastic film with one of the McGowan brothers. I can't remember which one. So it's about set in England. It's about a young guy who is he's kind of not down on his luck exactly, but his life's not really going anywhere, and he masquerades as a doctor in a local hospital, and ends up being, you know, like reasonably successful as the doctor, just kind of winging it basically, but picking stuff up along the way. And it's quite dark, it's quite twisting, it's got a fantastic ending. So yeah, and so it's quite a short novel, like a couple of 100 pages. But if that sounds interesting, you should definitely find it and read it. It's really, really brilliant. And the film, as I say, which was made in, I guess, the 90s, which is, as I say, one of the McGanns, and Amanda Donoghue is in it as well as a nurse. That's really, really good too. So yeah, and very interesting kind of semi-thriller. Definitely worth reading. Right, so I think that was book 4. Or was it book 5? I don't know. We'll say it was book 4. I'll go again. Right, I've got Deep Blue Trouble by Steph Broadrib, which is the second of her Laurie Anderson books. So I have read the first one, which I can't remember the name of, but I'm hoping somewhere in here it will tell me. No, it doesn't. So yeah, I've read the first of these books. So you know, kind of a female crime writer with a female detective. The first one was really good. I think she's like a bail bonds person, I guess you'd say. So yeah, bringing criminals back in. And yeah, the first one was just a really good, solid thriller. So I picked this one up because it was cheap. And yeah, great blurbs. So it's got a blurb from Ian Rankin, like Midnight Run, but much darker. So that looks like one I ought to get around to reading at some point. It's a good few years. I think I probably read the first book in the series in 2018 when I was doing a year when I only read books by female authors. So yeah, I remember it being very entertaining, which is why clearly I've picked up that one. Right, let's go again. Oh, another one I've read. Okay, this is a great book. So this is, hold on, let me get it open so I can get the cover up. This is Cock Block by C.V. Hunt, which is a like a small press horror novella. It's difficult to describe. Well, it's not difficult to describe what it's about, I guess. So what it's about is there's a broadcast from the President of the United States who isn't named as Donald Trump, but is clearly supposed to be Donald Trump. And I think this was published early in the Trump presidency, where he's and this broadcast just goes on and on and on, and basically it's just him ranting about women, and it drives men insane with kind of violence and lust, and they, you know, embark on a rampage of kind of rape and assault, and it's about some women who are kind of holed up trying to escape that. So it's a bit like it, you know, structurally it's a bit like a zombie novel, but with that kind of satirical political twist. So yeah, really a very dark but very entertaining novella. Right, I think that was that book 6 or book 7? Hopefully you're keeping count, because I'm not. Let's do another. We'll do another 3 or 4 maybe. Who knows? Right, I'm going to go a bit further back this time. Okay, I've got a book called Neighbourly by Ellie Monago. So this is, I'm pretty sure this is a book that was in the prime, like the prime can't remember what they call it, but if you're a Prime subscriber, every month you get a free new release Kindle book, and you get to choose from a list of like 6 or so. And this, I'm pretty sure, was one of those. So I think it's a, I suspect it's kind of a, what's it called? Like a domestic noir kind of thriller type thing, about neighbours gone wrong. Let me see if I can find a blurb for it. Not to be missed novel of suspense about the secrets hidden in a young couple's new neighbourhood. Cat and Doug felt like Aurora Village was the perfect community. Minutes from the city, affluent without pretension, no crime with a friendly vibe. It's everything Cat never had, and that she's determined to provide for her infant daughter. Snagging a nice bungalow in this exclusive enclave was worth all the sacrifice. But everything changes overnight when Cat finds a scrawled note outside their front door. That wasn't very neighbourly of you. So yeah, maybe a bit different from what I said. Actually, this sounds a bit darker than that. I'm always a bit dismissive of domestic noir. This sounds a bit more interesting. So yeah, maybe I will give it a try now. Right, let's do a few more. All right, I've got one that I started reading and didn't finish. So this is a republished on Kindle pulp novel from a series called The Sergeant by an author called Len Levinson, who was really quite prolific, I think. So this is like a World War II pulp series he wrote. This is the first book in the series. It's called Death Train, which is a pretty epic title. It's a bit of a poor cover. It's like the cover for a cheap comic book, isn't it? Let's redo the blurb for this one. If the sergeant doesn't stop these trains, D-Day goes down the drain. The speaker was Colonel Fairbairn, Special OSS Advisor to General Omar Bradley, at a tense meeting of SHAEF only days before the planned Normandy invasion. Thus began yet another do-or-die mission of the man called the Sergeant. C.J. Mahoney, codenamed Parrot, a big brawling career GI, Mahoney was an almost perfect killing machine with an incredible knack for languages, and the Army's heavyweight champion foul-up. So yeah, I started this and for whatever reason didn't finish it, which is very rare for me with a pulp type novel, so maybe I need to give it another try. Right, let's go through again. I'm going to go a lot farther back this time, because these have all been quite recent so far in terms of when I got them. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I can't remember if I've read this one or not. I have read this one. So this is, I genuinely can't remember if I've read this. So it is book 1 in the Kingkiller Chronicles. So a fantasy, no, I haven't read this one, a fantasy novel, which I was recommended by, let me show you the cover and stop waffling. So I was recommended this by someone I used to work with who said the series was really good. So again, I think that the first one was cheap, so I picked it up, but I've never got around to reading it. But this is one I bet some of you have read, because I think it's quite a well-known fantasy novel. Right, I'm going to do just 2 more. Oh, right, okay, I've got another series, the Shatter Me series by Tahara Mafi, which is, I think there's 6 books in the series. I've got the first 4, and I've read the first 1, so I have actually read one of them. So let me go into to get the cover up. So this is a kind of YA dystopian futuristic thing about this girl who's got special powers, who I think, if I remember rightly, meets a boy who's also got special powers, and together they battle the evil dystopian government. So it's quite silly, and I don't mean to be dismissive of it, because it was genuinely entertaining. It's got a really kind of manga feel to it in terms of the melodrama and the kind of massive action that happens and stuff like that. So it was quite entertaining. But then I never read any of the other books in the series either. So obviously I didn't think it was that great. Right, let's keep going. Oh, okay. Right, another non-fiction one. So I do tend to buy quite a lot of non-fiction books and then not read them. But this one was one that sounded interesting. So The Secret Life of Bletchley Park. So, Bletchley Park I find fascinating. It was, if you don't know, so it was in the UK, the code breaking centre in World War II, where they cracked the Enigma code and things like that. So if you've seen The Imitation Game, then that is largely set in Bletchley Park. So yeah, a fascinating time in world history. and fascinating from its the connection to science and mathematics and things like that, and Bletchley Park particularly. I knew when I was younger, my parents had a friend who'd actually worked at Bletchley Park as a code breaker, who had some interesting stories to tell. Right, I'm going to do, if I can get out of this book, I'm going to do one more and then call it a day. But if you've enjoyed this, then do let me know, and I will do some more. It's felt like it's probably been a bit of a mess, but we'll see. Right, this is another one I haven't read, I don't think. So this is a pulp anthology, Beat to a Pulp. So edited by David Cranmer and Scott D. Parker. So I think this was was published by a very small publishing house who I got a few things from fairly early on in having a Kindle. It's got stories by Patricia Abbott, David Cranmer, Wayne D. Dundee, Garner Elliott, Kent Gowran, Glenn Gray, Amy Gretsch, Brad Green, John Horner Jacobs, Benoit I'm going to struggle with this one. Benoit Lelievre, Ron Earl Phillips, Thomas Pluck and Kieran Shea. So Thomas Pluck, I have read he wrote a series of 3 like pulp style men's adventure type novels, which I completely forget the name of, but I'll try and put an image of one of them up, which were really good fun. Yeah, just sort of full on 80s cheese type stuff, but very entertaining. So he's got a story in here. There's a good few stories in here, but yeah, I have not read this one. Oh yes, so Beat to a Pulp also published some westerns, so the adventures of Cash Laramie and Gideon Miles, and I think I read some of their western books, kind of novellas, ages ago. Yeah, so that has shown you what's lurking on my Kindle, or some of what's lurking on my Kindle. I've lost count of how many books I did, but I think it was around 10. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this, let me know and I will do it again, a kind of Kindle Russian roulette. If you haven't enjoyed it, but you're interested to see what's on my Kindle and you'd like me to do a curated version, then do let me know as well, because this has felt a bit rambly, even for me. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're all safe and well, and I will speak to you again soon. Cheerio.